ladies and gentlemen, or should I say hello, gentlemen. Today we're going to talk about the latest release from AG and Playdeck. It is Nightfall, the deck building game. Let's take a look at this slightly more complicated deck building game and see if it can stand up to the high bar set by Ascension. In Nightfall, you are attempting to build the most efficient deck full of minions and events. These minions can be used to attack your opponent, inflicting wounds upon him, and these abilities can help your minions or possibly inflict wounds upon your opponent as well. The whole goal is to harm your opponent, and the player with the least wounds at the end of the game will be the winner. All cards in Nightfall feature moons in the left-hand corner. This large moon is the color of the card, and the two smaller moons are cards they can link to. Minion cards feature health and strength, and when a minion loses all of its health, it will be removed from the game. Minion cards also feature special abilities. The first ability will happen when it says, and the second ability is a kicker ability that only happens when this card is played after a card of the matching color. There are also event cards which also have 3 colored moons in the top, and these cards also have abilities. They do not stay out like minions, but they have abilities which will do something either in the chain or at another time, and they also have a kicker cost. The key to Nightfall is chaining cards together. There is no limit to how many cards you can play on a given turn, only that they must all link together. So in this case, we started with some red cards that link to another red card that then link to a purple card. These chains can go on, and part of your success at the game will be building effective chains. Again, the purpose of Nightfall is to inflict wounds upon your opponent. This is a direct attacking game. At the end of the game, the player with the least wounds will be the winner. If there is a tie, there are different types of wounds, and these will help determine who will win in case of a tie. Nightfall is the third title from Playdeck, and the first from their partnership with AEG. Nightfall is, at least on the surface, much more complicated than Ascension. The interface has more moving parts, and there's much more to keep track of. However, Nightfall does excel, and let's take a look and see how it stacks up compared to previous releases and what to expect from this title. Nightfall offers the same single-player play that we remember with previous releases, as well as pass and play. The options that we have are similar to those of previous Playdeck releases. We can have multiple games running, and you can choose things such as the difficulty of the AI. There are 3 levels here, and the third level is quite challenging, and the second one really is hard even for somewhat experienced players. You can also do pass and play and a mix of AI and pass and play players. You can choose your avatar. All of these gross-looking vampire people. Not much appeals to me there, but you do get to pick. You can turn on draft or not draft mode, as well as revealing wounds or not revealing wounds. As you can see here, the game starts with the drafting mode, where you are given the options to draft different cards. These cards will affect your strategies during the game. The interface is a little more complex than Ascension, but they did a good job of showing you everything that is going on. It does get more complex with more players, but especially with 2 players, you can see their minions that are in play, as well as the cards they have to choose to buy from. There is a lot going on, and it does take a while to get around, but the tutorial, if anything, does explain well how to operate this somewhat complex interface. The design is fairly well done, and they've really added some items to speed up the game. You can also control the overall movement speed of the game, which you may want to keep low while you're learning, but you'll definitely want to turn up as things go on, as there are many elements and moments that must be captured to show you, but it's better to see those at a faster pace. Overall, this interface has the same great polish that we've come to expect from Playdeck, but with a very specific flair and specific design with this game in mind. Nightfall also features online multiplayer. This online multiplayer is similar to that you've experienced with previous Playdeck apps, except there are a few new features. One is the return of the in-game timers that allow you to set games at certain times. Also, as you can see, there's a lot more information on what's in each game, what sets they're using, and things like that right up front, which is very helpful. Also, how many players have joined and whether they're online or not. You can also see other players' profiles to see how good they are and also how consistent they are in completing games. We did see a little unlockable content in Food Fight, and this is continued here. Available right off the bat are the initial 3 promo cards, which are unlockable through different achievements, and eventually there will be future expansions as well as their promo cards. There's a lot to say about Nightfall, so I'm going to try to wrap it up as quickly as I can. First, I feel that Nightfall is a very complex game, much more complex, at least in presentation, than something like Ascension. I believe they created a great interface that shows this. Yes, there could be improvements and bugs that need to be fixed. I think one thing that they could have done actually is done away with the cards entirely and presented things in a simplified manner that shows where everything is in better design than the actual physical cards. But this is not something Playdeck typically does, and I can't really hold that against them. Second, I know that the learning curve of this game is quite steep. I was not terribly familiar with it when I started playing, and it did take me a while to learn. I'm still not an expert, and I'm still getting walloped by the AI and by some online players, though my record's decent, okay. I believe that the tutorial could be more clear. I believe that they could explain more of why you're doing things, saying you're buying this because it is going to allow you to do this in the future. There doesn't have to be a longer tutorial, just rephrase things so that it teaches players more of a little bit of the strategy. Again, though, it's going to be up to the players to develop their strategies, as this game is quite complex and I believe is going to take time from players to invest and have some learning games to really understand the game. Where this app really excels, I believe, again, is in presentation. It's amazing. The animated menus are amazing. This is some of the highest class presentation yet on the device. Apart from that, I believe it's going to excel in multiplayer games. I don't mean one-on-one. I mean 4 or 5 player games online, which really did not work in Ascension or Food Fight, but I believe will really work well in this app, as it seems to appeal to that type of play. Its art and theme, as well as its somewhat high level of complexity and learning curve, will not make it appeal to every player. However, it is a great example of iOS board gaming and should not be overlooked. Nightfall may not have the wide async appeal of Ascension, the quick, easy games. It does take more thought and more time to learn, but I do feel that if players will take the time to invest, especially hardcore video game and board game players, they will find a very enjoyable video game and multiplayer experience here that can become very competitive and enjoyable in the long term.